Hi everyone, welcome to part 6 of my Lord of the Rings toy box level, Helm's Deep, and we've come to the section now which I think you've all been waiting for actually. This is where we have the marching armies head towards the castle. Now as you can see in this section here, I've had the 3 siege towers move down. This is just so I can line up the armies to march in between the sections. And one thing I'm a bit worried about is how much memory I'm going to tape up with the soldiers, because I want enough soldiers to give you the impression it's an army, not just 1 or 2 soldiers. So we're going to try and push it to the limits of this particular one. But it was purely by chance the way I set the 3 siege towers up. So what you'll see is I'm counting number of blocks. If I'm trying to find the halfway point, and there's actually 15 blocks all the way through here. You'll see as I count through here. Just going to count this side along the side here. You'll find that there, if you counted them as I went through, there's 15 in total. So I'm aiming for the middle. And what I'm going to have here is these are the path tools I'm now going to put up where my battle droids start marching down the path. Now, if you see my other clips, you'll know here when we get to the end of the path, they want to stop and then they're going to charge the castle. Now you'll see here I'm lining it up with the explosion of the walls because I don't want them to be marching and have the wall land on their head, so I want them to stop at this particular point. But at the end of this path you must have 2 points. It's extremely important you have 2 points. So you see here I'm just going to do the other channels, and I've decided to have they march in 3s. I was going to just do 6, but I think I'm going to go with 9. But you'll see here I'll have 2 points, this point here and the second point. Now the end point we don't worry about at all, but what we do is when the soldier, you'll see here it lines up perfectly, so when those siege towers walk past they won't be in the way. But the reason for the 2 points is that when we get to the first point on this path, I'm going to switch the path off. If you do the end path, what happens is one of the soldiers jumps right back to the end again, and I don't want them to do that, so I'm just going to get them to stop and stand there. And that's our first lot of army that's going to approach, and you'll see here again that is lined up perfectly, not going to be in the way of the siege towers. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to create another set again on the opposite side, so move these in between. Now I'm also going to want it on the other side of the tower where the explosion is, because that's where the hole comes through. So you'll see here I'm going to count 7 off into this section, because in my case that was bang on in the middle. Now you'll see some of the explosions ahead are in the way, but we're not worried about that because I'm going to line these up. And you'll see here, do one drop and then do the next, and they stop just before the explosion area where the bricks fall out. And the reason for that is when the troops get to the end here, they're going to then charge and run and hit the castle. Now the reason for the path, this is where the troops appear to start marching against the castle. Now once that first wave of troops attack us, we're then going to have another set of soldiers. I'm going to have a different type of set of soldiers that attack the castle, and then a third set. And these marching soldiers won't change. They'll be constantly one set after the other. So I'm going to show you how we set these all up. Now sadly I'm only going to show you the end effect, so if you've got to this point you go, just show me what it looks like. Jump to 32 minutes into this clip and you'll see the end result. And sadly I'm not going to show you the full results with the siege towers, I'm just going to show you the battle droids. And let me just tell you, if it's this good just with the battle droids, just think once I have the siege towers and I have the bombardments and I have all the explosions going off, it's going to look epic. I'm actually quite pleased the way this has gone, because I have to say I did all the logic and I've worked out how I was going to do this, but until I ran it just recently, the end result was trying to look at, is it going to work, are we going to overload it, is it going to actually look any good? And I think the end result's going to be pretty awesome actually. It's going to come out really well, even though I do say so myself. Right, and you'll see here I've now got, so they all stop perfectly. Now the marching army on a continuous loop is actually quite straightforward. It's just a lot of connecting things together, but they all make sense when I show you through these parts. So make sure you've got 2 points at the end, but there you'll see I've got 3 sets of paths now set up within here this screen. Okay, so there you go, there are my paths, and the troops are going to appear here and move across the screen. Now what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to go and change the speed of the path, and the marching army wants to be about 20. So you'll see here, now that I've got my 9 paths, I click into each one, go to properties of each one of these paths, just the marching paths, and change the properties to 20. I find that's about the best walking speed. Okay, each one of you do's, you're going to go across here. Now, because we've got 9 things to do here, I'm going to speed these up. So you'll see there's a lot of clips I'm going to use where I'm going to speed up the motion just to see where you're going. And this is one of those moments right now. So let's just speed this bit up. So all those paths there now are all set to 20 speed. Okay, I'm just going to move this brick out of the way. And what I'm going to do here is I'm just making some space just to line up my logic, which I'm then going to move all underground. Okay, but we're going to need a few little items first. So let's go to our creativity toys and let's set this up. Now, for a marching army, the best thing to have is not an enemy wave generator. You don't want a wave, you want individual armies. It's definitely the individual ones you want, because it waits for the whole wave to be defeated first, and we're going to keep firing them as they go across. So I'm going to create 3 for one line, 3 for the next middle one, and 3 for the other one. If you've seen how to stop an execution, it's very similar in those aspects, but the difference with this one is we're going to have them wave after wave, so we're doing a slight little change on how this scenario works. Right, we're going to need locators. Now, we only need these one set locators because every wave that we do are going to be pointed to these same sets. So the first time we set the locators up, going to be a lot easier. Second time's a little bit more, hassle to do. Right, and let's go back to the other things. Right, so we need a logic gate here, and what this logic gate here is going to input and set all the first line of the armies to appear. That's the first job it's going to do. Yeah. Now we're going to need a couple of other things here, and this is the clever bit. This is the not the repeater, it's the time delay. I want the time delay. Now, depending on how many armies you want, it's depending on how many time delays you want, and we'll come to explain that in a moment. But that time delay allows you to have them in the whole marching group. We need another logic gate, and that logic gate is what triggers the whole thing off. So that's our little starting point. And then we need a counter to know how many enemies have been defeated. And when that counter reaches a certain number, we're going to set another set of enemies coming across. So we're making sure there's a constant flow of soldiers constantly going through, so they never end. Right, that basically is the logic. All you need to set your troops attacking. So we have a number of things we have to do first. Okay, first things first, we have to connect these. So new logic connection when enemy generated, not enemy generated, so new locator. All very close together. I find sometimes it's better to go to locator and point the back. So we have to connect the locator to each one of these individual enemy generators. And it must be one locator per one enemy generator. That is important. Okay, so we connect all those up to this particular option. Now, once we've got that set up, we're going to have this little count here that's going to track how many items that we've killed. Now, we're not going to do anything with that at the moment. We'll come back to the moment. But this logic gate here, what that does is when we do an output from this logic gate, we're going to send a signal in and say, right, to each one of these enemy generators, can we generate a Twilight one and can we do a Battle Droid? So again, from this logic gate, on output, can we generate a Twilight and Battle Droid? And you need to do that for all those. So you'll see here I'm just doing the whole set here on output. I've now done every single one of those. Can we do Twilight and can we do the Battle Droid group? So I've now got on that logic gate there, can I send a signal to all 9 of those characters, and each one of those is connected to the locator. Yep. And an enemy will appear in that particular spot. Now what you'll see here is I'm connecting on each one of these, and I'm making sure in the right order. I'm now connecting to a path. So I'm going to each one now, connect all 9 again. So go into the options there, new path connection, connect it to the other path, and we'll do the second one on the path. And you'll see I've got them in a certain particular type of order. And again, I've got to repeat that for every single enemy generator. So again, flying through these little clips because you'll get bored of me. I've gone through every single one of these enemy generators now, and I've linked those to the path. Okay, so it'll now go straight to the path, but the enemy is going to appear on those locators. Okay, so every one of those is now set up, which is all sorted on that. Now what we need to do now is just double check. You'll see there's 2 points to each one. Double checking that they are all connected on the screen. We haven't missed any one of those items off, which is great. Okay, so what we'll do is, if you look at this locator here, when we point to the locator, you'll notice there's a little blue dot. When we click on it, so you'll see there's a very tiny blue dot to the left, which means the enemy will be facing in the wrong direction. So I need to rotate that round and then move that into the place where the path is. So I'm now going to move that across and put that on top on the first path related to the path it meets. Yeah, and I've got to do the same with every single one of these again. So guess what? We're going to speed up the film again. So I'm going to twist those around so the dots facing in the right direction towards the castle, put that on the second point, and I'll do this for all other remaining 9 points as well. So flying through again, almost done the last one. So it just seems so much easier when we can cut through this. The whole process, by the way, only took me about an hour to do the whole thing, but because I've got about a 45 time limit for the high quality resolutions, I thought it was easy just to cut it down and be less boring anyway. So we've now got all the locators in position, we've got all the enemy generators connected to the paths, and we've got the trigger to have the enemies all appear on that screen. Okay, so watch bits next. Okay, now these two things are quite important. I'm going to get you to bring 2 logic gates, because when the armies march down the path, we are going to switch the path off, which will stop the army and then get them to charge. But then when we do the next wave, we need to put the paths back on. So I need 2 gates here to switch the paths on and off. Okay, and these are important that they're called. So the one we do on the left hand side, because we've done this through the whole toy box, turns everything off. So I'm going to do on output, point to the path tool, and I'm going to switch it off. Okay, and I need to do that, sadly, for every single one of those paths. So I'm going to choose the off option on here. So I'm going to go grab the next one. So use new logic gate. So on output, do the second one, and again do it all the way through the whole lot. So yes, you got it. I'm going to speed it up again because it's very boring, but I'm going to switch all these to off. So all those now are connected to all those paths. Yep. So on output, click the last one and switch that one to that path and get it. And we're going to switch it off. So that logic will turn off the path tool on all those, which is really good. Yeah. Now sometimes it's trying to hard have you got them all connected. It's not easy to see. So sometimes it's easier just to grab the path, move it to the side over here, and then when you go back into Spark mode, you should see there's all 9 connections done, which they are, which is perfect. So we can move that one back. And guess what? We've got to do exactly the same with the other one. So the other one we've got to do the same. We've got to get that one, and I've got to link all those to the path, and I've got to switch them all back on. So on output, point to each one of these path sections, and we're going to turn the thing off. And then we're going to speed up time again, but I've got to go for every single one again to do the same with that. Okay, and when we play back the clip, we'll run through the whole thing again as it goes through, but we'll get that up and switch them all on. So it looks like these are almost done, and what we'll do here is just to double check we've done them all. If we click this path on here, now when we point to them, they're also connected as well, so they switch the paths on. And like I say, throughout the whole levels we've had left is off and right is on. Okay, and we'll put those there, and they're very important to that setup. Okay, so what's bits now? What we're going to do now is we're going to have to do an option here. We'll say, right, new logic connection. When enemy defeated, when we defeat an enemy, can we increase the counter by 1? So increment counter by 1, and I need that again to do that for every single one of the 9 options. Enemy defeated, increment counter by 1. Bit boring, but you have to do it for each one. So then all 9 of those increase my count, and this is going to keep a track of how many enemies we've defeated before I set the other wave. So it's really important that you've got to do it, but it has to put a counter in place. Just increment the counter by it. Makes life a lot more easier. By 1, sets them all up. Okay, so what we're going to do here is we're going to have rows of 9, so we're going to have 27 in total. But what we're going to say here is when the counter gets to, say we've destroyed 20 of them, so when the properties, we'll change that property to 20, and we're not going to display it. I don't want them to see the counter, we'll have it off invisible, Yeah, doesn't need to show. But when we have that set to 20, when that target is reached, we're going to set the second wave going, and that is really important. So we'll come back to the moment, but that is important. That item is set up. Now this is what triggers the whole thing off. This logic gate here triggers log. So new logic connection on output. Can we reset the counter because we're doing a new wave? Yeah. Right. What we can also do is new logic connection on output. Yeah. Can we switch on the path tool? The path tool must be switched on. Yeah, that guarantees that goes back on. Yeah. Input into that signal. Right, now we're going to do another logic gate, but it's in the way, so we'll go back here. What we're going to do now is new logic connection, and we're going to connect to the other one, but you'll see the other one slightly in the way, so I'm just going to move that slightly to the right, just so that we know the lines don't get in the way here. So again, new logic connection, on output, input to this section. Now what that will do is, that will get 9 enemies in a long row appear in the line. Okay, they'll just appear one single row of 9 battle droids facing the castle, which would be great. Yeah, so we input that signal into there. That then fires all the enemies. Now, what we're going to do here is we'll do a connection to this time delay. So with the same signal goes out, we get the 9 troops going, and then we set the time delay going. And we give the time delay around about 3 seconds. Okay. After that 3 seconds, what we're going to say is, can you then input a signal back into that gate? And that will get me my second row of troops to appear. Okay. So now if I wanted another one of these, so if I put another one on these items, so let's put another line here, I can have as many as I want. So if you want to risk how many lines of troops that you want, new logic connection from our starting point, start the second delay. Now this wants to be the third set. So you've got to take the first one that takes 3 seconds, so you'll just keep adding 3 seconds to it. So in this case the delay for that one needs to be set for 6. So we go to properties of that, because you allow the first one to happen, which is after 3, so 4, 5, 6, and then the third line will appear. And when that does, we send logic back to the logic gate, which then sets another line of troops to appear. You can't do that with an enemy wave generator. It's a lot better that way. Now, depending as they approach, you can still kill the enemies as they're walking along the line. So we can't be guaranteed which dots they're going to be working on. So I have to do this for every single one. So when point reached on path, can we input a signal into this which switches the item off? But we don't know which one is going to make it, because while they're marching, we're going to be shooting them as much as possible, trying to destroy as many before they get the castle. So you have to do it for every single point, because we're not guaranteed that's going to be the case. So I'm going to have to input a gate in every single one of those items from that path. So guess what? I'm just going to speed up time because it's a bit boring, but you do it all 9 points. So now go to the very last one, and you'll notice it's all the second point, by the way, not the end one, the second point. When point reached on path, can we go to the very last one, and can we switch them all, input a signal in there, which will then switch the paths all off. Okay, so that is important, that's set up. Okay, the only thing we have to do is every time we do a new batch of troops, we just got to turn the path back on. And that is your configuration set. By just inputting a signal into that one logic gate will set the whole thing going. Now what we're going to do over here now is I'm going to prepare what I'm going to do, I'm going to have a reset switch. Okay, this reset switch is on output. Can you defeat all the enemies? So obviously I want to test this, but I don't want to be left with a level with 100 of enemies on the things. There's one thing to remove all. So if we defeat the area doesn't work, I'm going to have a reset button that clears any enemies that are currently on the board. So on here is I'm going to do a logic gate on output. Any enemies that we've generated in there whatsoever, can you wipe out? So, and there is an option that says remove all, that clears them all out, which is quite handy. So I'm going to set that up, and guess what? I'm going to repeat that for all 9 fields. So let's just do that for each one. And so there we go, last one set, one more to go. So that's my little reset switch. So if I want them all to go without me having to fight them all off, we'll press this button. We'll send a signal into here to switch off, like I have a reset button, just for our design button. Something similar I did with the towers, where I had the enemies appearing. Okay, so I can grab hold of that, and just to prove a point that they are all connected, When you point it, you'll see all 9 have got the link through. So we can move that out of the way, and we'll bring that right at the very back here. This isn't like reset, so we're doing the whole thing when we start a whole new challenge marker again. Right, now that is your first wave of enemies complete. Now the path is set up now, and the links are through. So what we're going to do here is I'm just going to grab a logic gate here, and we're going to do the whole same thing again for the next army. That's the key thing that fires the whole army off. So I need to repeat the same process for that. If I want different enemies, the same thing appearing on the other side. So I'm just going to tab them in slightly across here. So I'm going to get another enemy employee, and I'm going to do 9 again on this box. And sadly we've got to reconnect all these 9 to the paths, to the locators, to the logic gates. So we've got to do all these again. So what you'll notice here, for my second wave, I need my logic gate that triggers the whole thing off. I need my logic gate that actually makes the troops appear. I need my time delays for the enemies to appear on the screen. So where's my time delay? That's for my second wave, and a slightly angle for the third. And I need a counter to record how many of this lot have been defeated before it goes and keys another one in. Okay. So we now can set those items. So in this case here, we can do new logic connection on output. Yeah. Can we input into this logic gate, which is going to be connected to all 9 points? Okay. New logic connection on output. Can we start our time delay? New logic connection on output. Can we start our second time delay? Right, so another connection. Now this is important. We must then switch the path back on because we've disabled the path for the troops to stop walking. So we must switch it back on for the next wave. So we input it into there, and that switches it back on. And then we must also reset the counter. So new logic connection. Can we do on output? Can we reset our counter? And again, there's going to be 27 troops, and we're going to set that to 20. Yeah, that is important. That's on the screen because that means once we get down to 20, I need to set more troops coming. I don't want there to be a lull. I want the troops constantly coming. Like I say, 32 minutes into this clip, we're going to show you that actual item. Now we're going to do logic for the time delays. When those are complete, we need to input back into that logic gate, which will set another army come, and the same with this one. When that one's complete, we set that one in there. And like I say, if you wanted more troops, you'd have to go up in 3s. So the time delay here, the properties is set to 3 seconds. Time delay for the next one is going to be set to 6. If you want another one, it's going to be 9, 12, 15, and it will then be perfectly matched army approaching. I think we're pushing the limits with 27 enemies. With everything else that's going off, I think we're pushing our luck here. So when we see it play, when you see it play at 32, you'll see how the effect works, and you'll see why we've done the staggered effect that we've done on this screen. Right, so what we've got to do now is on this logic gate, we're going to do output, but the only reason I wanted to show you this here is when I go to this enemy generator, I'm going to pick a different droid. I'm going to click the battle droid, the one with the shooting through the arms, and I'm now going to have to link that up 9 times. So on output, can I go to the enemy wave generator, go to the Twilight Republic, and then choose the second droid. So I've just speeded that up now and done that for all 9 of the second wave of troops. Yeah, so all those are now connected to that logic gate. So now I need to go to each one of these ones now, and I'm going to have to use new path connection, and I'm going to link them to that path. Yeah, so toy box path connected, and I've got to go and speed this one through. So again, we're going to have a couple of little speedy up moments as I go through these 9, but all 9 in the same sequence need to be connected to those path tools. New path connection. And as we speed through, we get these all done. Now the beauty of YouTube and the idea of this clip is that as I speed it through, so I'm not being boring and you just fall asleep while I go through these clips, is that you can pause each section. It was amazing by just cutting those little clips out, just those little repetitive bits, allowing me to condense this clip down to a small little unit. but obviously you want to see the end result, and I wanted to show how it was all put together first before I show you the end result, because it will make more sense than how the troops are occurring. So all those now I can double check as I scan over them are linked to the logic gate and linked to the path. Now I need to do exactly the same thing but to the locator. I've got to do each one to the same locator now. Okay, and do the same for the next one, and again every single one of those has got to be linked to each of those locators. So let's speed that section up as well. And you'll see here, nicely done, the very last one. New locator connection. This one's a little more tricky because the locators are set in place now. You have to go and point all the way to that particular route. You can't just create a new set of locators because they all get stacked on top of each other. So now when we point down, you should now see that there are two at the very end. Look at the distance, you can see there's two lines, one for the path tool and one for the locator, and that just guarantees I've done them all. So hey presto, that is now set up and ready to go, and all I've got to do is input a signal into that logic gate and a second wave will come, and that is triggered not by that one, that's my starting point, but when I get down to only 7 left, that will reach its target, and when that does, I will input a signal. So a new logic connection, when target reached, I will input my signal into this logic gate, which will then set my second set of army coming, which is going to be a slightly higher grade of robots, because the first battle droids are really easy to beat. Now when that wave is done, I can then daisy chain another set and another set. Now this one here is when this enemy drops down, so when these are all defeated, yeah, I must have those, so I will do new logic connection when enemy target reach, sorry, yeah, I must then, and I can carry on looping it back to this group and it will then reset all those going across on the screen. Now one thing I haven't shown you is I must link all those things to that target, and also I need to hit the reset button for those options, so that all those reset options need to be linked to the same path. That needs to be connected as well to remove all. Another setting that we need to change. So what I've done here now is, you'll see here I've got my little locators. You'll now notice I've got 3 waves of enemies, yeah? That is my logic gate connected to there, and when that target is reached, I'm going to do this set, so another set I've put in place. I could have 4 sets if I wanted to run them at one time, and when that logic gate is finished, so I can make sure it's 20. Okay, so when that logic is finished, I'm then going to go back to the battle droid route. So it's then in a continual loop of troops charging against the castle. Yeah, and if you look at my reset button, every single one of my enemy generators has an option to say remove all. Yeah, so that will clear all those items off that screen. And you'll see, and I'm just doing one last connection, is that when I do my reset all, I'm actually then resetting all the counters as well. Just saying, can you just reset the counters? I may have reset all the enemies, but let's reset the counters as well, just in case we do our next game, we're halfway through. It just guarantees that everything's reset within this particular window. Okay, that's not too bad at the moment. Now what I need to do is I obviously need something to trigger this. Now we have this without challenge marker, but what I'm going to do here, I'm just going to create 2 buttons, and these buttons here just allow us to test it. Again, all these buttons that we created in this level we're going to remove off. So to start the enemy, I want the first batch. When we press this button, I'm going to input a signal into here, and by inputting that signal in, that is going to continually have me wave after wave after wave. Now when I'm finished with this, I want to save it or I'm finished, I then want to reset everything. So I'm just going to input a signal into this logic gate that will wipe all the memories out and clear everything out. Now obviously I want what the call effect is, so I'm just going to move that up onto our wall, where we'll see, so I can trigger it. So I'll just place that, I'm also going to go right there, I'm just not on the actual exploding wall part. I'll just place that there for the meantime. That's where we're going to just see the enemies appear in front of us. And if I want to hit my reset button, that little reset button there, we're going to grab hold of that, and I'll hit our reset, so I'm going to move that across. Now, as the troops start marching against the castle, which look really good, when they path stops, they all pause for a second, and then their own AI kicks in. But if we haven't told them what their objectives, if they just wander off and get lost again. So we need to give them a target, okay? And you can't just say keep moving forward, because if you keep them to just stay on the path, they don't shoot back, they just wander on the path. So as they march through, we get to here, we want to say, right, go attack the castle. So what you have to do is you have to give it like one of these little treasure tools in your creativity toys. So if we just go back into our, I think it's not in creative toys, it's actually gameplay toys. There are a couple of things that you can use. If you ever played the there's these power discs you get, additional discs you got. I think Thor's was one of them, but I think it's Odin's treasure. One of these things. Right, here we go. There you go. Odin's treasure. There it is. Now, if we have this inside our map, yeah, what happens is the enemy will automatically attack it. Their job, their instinct is make sure that's blown up. So I'm going to put that into place. Now, what I wasn't aware of is that when you put Odin's treasure in, you actually can change the type of thing that's inside it. And if you've seen the new Thor film, which by the way is flipping fantastic, we agree that we think it's the best Marvel one this year, better than Spider-Man, even better than Guardians of the Galaxy 2. We rave it, so we think it's quite good. But there's a few little objects you can choose here for the treasure. Slightly sidetracked again. But there you go, the Eternal Flame, which is also important for the film if anyone has seen it. But yes, Thor Ragnarok is really good, definitely worth it. And have a check out of my Thor level that I did with the Hulk teaming up in the arena. See what you think of that one. Okay. Anyway, enough of that. Right, so we now have those options set aside. So that's all done. And then at some point I'm going to move all these and place those logics all hidden underneath the map, which we'll have to do. But there's one thing I forgot to show you that mustn't forget to do. Okay, and this is extremely important. Okay, I'm just going to show you this now. What you must do is this counter must be linked, and I've just done it now. It must be linked to all the orbs. So you must, when you defeat one of the enemies, you must decrease the counter by 1. Okay, so that's really important. And I missed just doing that when I just did a quick summary. But you must do, when any one of those enemies are defeated, they must decrease that counter. Sorry, increase that counter by 1. So once it gets to 20, it will fire it across. Right, should we give it a go? Should we see what it looks like? What do you think? Have a look at this. So we're on the wall. We're going to press that button, and hey presto, here comes my marching army. So the first set of army comes in, 3 seconds later a second set, 6 seconds later the third set. So we now have 27 troops marching on us. Now while they're marching, I can carry on shooting from a distance as they march through. Now my gut instinct means I want more, I do want more to appear, but remember we're going to have bombs going off, we're going to have a lot more action going across. See, I like the fact that the battle droids do talk back. Now, in a moment the battle droids are going to stop because they're going to get to the path, and we're going to switch the path off. There you go, we switch the path off. As soon as we switch the path off, they go, okay, right, we're on our own now, we're not connected to the path. They will now charge, look at that, they're now going to charge the castle. Right, and they're now charging the castle. And I'm going to jump down here, so look, I'm charging, trying to get through. Now the good thing is the castle walls are quite high that I can start tackling through. Now they get scared. Now as soon as I get down to only 20 left, the next wave are going to come. Oh, here you go. I'm now down to it, and here you can see the next set are coming. These lot more harder battle droids coming on the screen. So let's get rid of these ones quickly. But if you now look at the list, and that is why it was important that we switch the path back on, because those battle droids just wander off again. By switching the path back on, they get reconnected to the path and they start wandering down the line. As soon as we turn the path off, there's that second where the battle droids get disconnected, and once disconnected they don't go back to the path. So when I switch that path back on, they do not go back on at all. They're independent, which is a good little test. I didn't think that was going to work, but you'll see here they're marching in unison, which does look pretty cool. Okay, and they've stopped now, and now they're coming in for the attack. Now this time we're not going to drop down, we're going to hold these off. And now these guys fight back a little bit better. I can come closer as they're trying to attack us, because they're trying to get through to the castle. And these guys fire back. So remember this, but this will be better. We got to try and stop these guys attacking us while the siege towers are going to attack us, while there are explosions across. But we are holding these off quite nicely as they're shooting me. So yeah. It's like the Lord of the Rings, just that loads was trying to get the castle walls. The castle walls are holding them off. We're getting explosions, everything's going well. Again, once we get these down to 20, the next lot will appear. We've still got a fair few in there. And there you go, the next set of waves going to come now. Particle switch bound, third wave comes across. But like I say, the wall defence is doing their bit, and if we look closer, they're still marching on us. Now what we're also going to do is that once they breach the castle wall, we will get then more troops to appear inside the base to make it even harder for us. That's quite a good option. Now you'll see here they've all stopped marching in a second. Are they still walking? And now they've stopped marching, and now they're going to wait a few seconds, the path disconnected, and now they start charging. We've got a couple of more cool effects to come. I think we've got 3 clips in total left to come now. One is just now putting, one of them's going to be putting all the connections together. And I've got one more effect I want to try out before I suggest what it is, just to give the full Helm's Deep level. But these are all good explosions going off. Right, so we've got all those done. Cool, got my 20 on there, so now the battle droids are coming back again. So what we'll do now is I think we'll just have a bit of effect. Let's say they breach the castle wall. So if I turn around and fire one of my test buttons here behind us as they march forward. So let's just fire that test button. Castle wall gets breached. So the enemies are attacking, but they will now head straight towards. You'll see little red dots in the little radar on the bottom left corner. They're now heading to shoot my Odin's treasure. Once that gets blown up, that is the end of the game for us. They can't destroy that for us. So you'll see they're attacking away now. We've got to get rid of that. Some more guys are coming in. There's loads of them coming in. Oh no, they're all coming in now. Now they're broken in, it's all gone crazy. So it's going to look like it's all coming together quite nicely. Let me know what you think of this clip, how easy you think it is to put the troops attacking. But as you can see, it's going to be quite, I think it's going to look quite good. Once we've got all the other effects going off, the castle of fire, bombardment, it's going to be quite good on this. So I'm just going to leave her fighting away here on the screen. Okay, don't forget to tag if you like this clip. Any of you try, if anyone does try this, tell me what the maximum number of armies you had marching in on us. What was the total? Did you go for 50? Could it handle it? I don't know. I may try it on my own later once we've got it working, because there's going to be a lot of explosions and stuff going off. And if you do use up, remember it gets very glitchy and very I can't think of the word, but it gets sometimes lags. The classic example that occurs. you'll find a bit of lagging appearing and jumping occurring on your screens. If you use the replay tool, which makes things reappear, it doesn't like it when the memory's going, and you'll find when that does happen, it just doesn't work. So you'll find that tool stops working from the screen. Well, it's almost there. We're almost near the end of the Helm's Deep level. I hope you like how it's been broken down into different chapters. Thanks for watching, and I will get the next couple of clips to you very shortly. Cheers, guys. Oh, by the way, one last thing before I go. Paris show this week. Look out for Dreams. Very interested on that game. Could be the next type of game creator program coming out. So I'm extremely, fingers crossed, Dreams might be looked out. In fact, if I'm posting this clip, it should be out the same day. So we'll find out what Sony say about Dreams and what it looks like. I'll have some more information on that on my next clip. Speak to you soon. Have a good evening and catch you later, guys. Bye.